And welcome back to Clutch Time. Today we are talking about the Pac-12 as we continue our team previews. And today we're going to be looking at the Colorado Buffalo and just really looking at just how their roster looks on paper, the players that you want to watch for this upcoming season. We're going to take a look at the positives and things that they did well last season and things that they're going to need to build on. And then next, we're going to talk about the things that they absolutely have to correct if they're going to compete in a tough Pac-12. And so let's go ahead, let's jump into it, and let's start with just really the team build before we go into the players that you want to take a look at. So, I think that when you look at this team on paper, you're going to see a Colorado team that is built on the front court. In fact, they got 4 guards, they have 6 forwards and 1 center. So they are going to rely a lot on their forwards and their center here to really produce for them. And so these 4 guards, we're going to talk about them in a moment because they do have a guard that I think is certainly going to be impactful for them. And so next, let's go ahead, let's jump into just some of the details with this roster and just the players that you want to look out for. And so I think it starts at the guard with Brett Vaughn. And so I think that Brett Vaughn is going to be very important for this team. I just talked about how they do have a lot of forwards and then they do have the 1 center. But Brett Vaughn is definitely, I think, their most important piece at the guard position. You're talking about a player that is in his senior season. He averaged 8.9 points per game, and he also averaged 3.9 assists a game, which actually led the team there. And then when you look at just what he does as far as his superpower, it's his ability to just move the ball well. And so he gets everybody involved out there, and you need that, especially when you have a team constructed like Colorado, where it's not like that they have a lot of specialists. They really have a lot of slashers and things like that. And I think that for them, they really want to try to get you into pace and space. And so I think that Brett Vaughn is going to be super important for this team, and he is the team captain. So he's definitely a player that you want to watch. The next player that you're going to want to watch for this season with Colorado, it's going to be Jaden Thomas. And so these guys at the 1-2, they're going to be super important. And so with Jaden Thomas, with him, he actually led the team in scoring at 10.5 points per game. And then when you look at his free throw percentage, it was actually one of the better on the team. I believe the 3rd best at 64.6. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but he's actually one of their better jump shooters. And so, he's great with knocking down shots and things like that. And he's a pretty good shot creator too as well. And so he's a guy that can come off the bounce and get to spots and things like that and knock things down. And so I think that between these 2 guards, they keep things really dynamic for Colorado. And I think that they keep defenses really guessing a lot. And so those are the 2 players that I think you're going to want to watch for this upcoming season with them. And then when you start to take a look at the newcomers, this is where it really gets very interesting with this team. And so I talked about the fact that they have 6 forwards. And so out of those 6 forwards, 3 of them are freshmen. And so I think that the first, freshman that you're going to want to take a look at here is going to be Gunther Finn. And so I think that, he's going to be a player that you're certainly going to want to watch. I think that he is going to be, a very big contributor for them because he can finish and get tough baskets. He's definitely a guy that likes to attack the rim. He's pretty ferocious there. And they're going to rely on him as a freshman. But what I find interesting about him is he's definitely athletic, but they have him listed as a forward, and he's only 6'3". So 6'3", 216. He is definitely a guy that I want to see what he looks like and just how they're going to throw him out there at the forward position. I want to see, do they use him at the power forward position at times? Is he just strictly a small forward? And so I'm going to be definitely looking to see what Coach Boyle does with him out there throughout the season, because I definitely think he's going to be huge for them. And so the next player that I think that you want to definitely take a look at for them, it's going to be Jalil Saunders Guy. I think that he's definitely going to be, a huge contributor for them. So you're talking about a player that with his superpower, the one thing that I think that he brings to the team at 6'5" as a freshman is he's just terrific as far as just knocking down the 3-point shot. And so that is something that this team absolutely needs. And we're going to talk about why they need that when we take a look at their weaknesses, but they are going to need him too. And so I think between these two guys, they are going to, again, allow them to be a bit more dynamic when they get into this space and pace and kind of open it up. And I also think that these guys might be players that they're going to have to rely on when the game slows down because of what they can do. And so they might need somebody that can get them a bucket. And so these are two freshmen that you want to take a look at. And so the last freshman that I think is going to be impactful for them is going to be Marcel Ribeau. And so I think that he's going to be a guy that you definitely take a look at here. And so as a freshman, and I think with him, they're going to rely a lot on just his athleticism. I think that him, being a guy in the open court and just really a guy that can maybe be a good finisher for you. And then also, too, the next thing that he has is he has a nice little fadeaway jump shot, too, as well. And so this is a guy that maybe they can lean on a little bit more in the post. And so he's coming in at 6'7", and so he actually gives them some size. But that is also one of the things that Colorado will struggle with. And so those are the three newcomers that you want to definitely circle when you're taking a look at Colorado this season. And so next, I wanted to jump into really the positives and the things that Colorado does well, the Colorado Buffalo. And so with them, I think that the first thing that they do well is they get offensive rebounds. And so this is a team that comes in with the 10.2 rebounds that they averaged the season ago. And so we're anticipating that they're still going to be able to do that. And I think that this is why their offense was able to score like it was, because they were able to get more possessions and they were able to capitalize. And so it showed in the scoring at 75.9. They were 10th in the country there. They were also a pretty good field goal percentage team as well at 49.2. And so those are some of the positives with this team. I think when you look at the wins, I liked some of their wins. And so they beat Memphis. They beat Miami, which last year that would have been the year before's Hoops area champion. Obviously, UCLA won it this last year, but still, Miami was a team that I think a lot of teams were wanting to get, and Miami did kind of turn it on towards the end of the year. And then they beat USC and they beat Utah. So they had some solid wins, and I think that there were definitely some wins that they certainly could have had. And there were a lot of games, I think, that you take a look at on the schedule that Colorado should have won. And so that kind of leads me to really the biggest questions with this team. And just really, I think some of the things that they are going to have to clean up that I'm not even sure if it's something that can be done as far as just the X's and O's. I think that really when we take a look at Colorado, and I think the biggest issue with them is mental toughness. I think that this is a team, to me, that really fell apart in moments because there's a lot of games that they should have won. And I think that this team was a lot better than what they finished at, because there's no way that this team should have finished at 14-16 and been below 500 just with the way that they were able to score and get rebounds and things like that. And so the first thing that I had an issue with them is just there were teams that they should have beat. So that's number one. Number two, when you look at just some of the things that they have going on with this team, it's just that the undersized unit kind of hurt them. And I think that this is something that you're going to have to take a look at this upcoming season, because for all the forwards that they added, there's nobody over 6'7". I mean, everybody that they really brought in was the 6'7". And then also, too, one of their forwards is 6'3". And so I think that is going to be, I think, a big issue, because this team is basically relying on a lot of heart, a lot of effort. They're going to rely on a lot of these players being able to get versatile. And one would say, okay, well, I'm betting on that. But the issue that I have with that is that you're going to have to rely on three of your key contributors are freshmen, and they're going to have to contribute immediately. And so are they going to be ready? So remember, three of those six forwards that they brought in, these guys are going to be very much they're not tested yet. And so they may not be ready. And so that's going to be an issue. And so the next thing that I had an issue with Colorado, and one of the things that they're going to have to fix is, as good as they were on the offensive glass, they were really terrible overall. This was a team that did not get nearly enough rebounds as they should have. In fact, they only averaged 30.7 total rebounds, and that's not very good. I mean, considering that, 10.2 of those were your offensive glass, they really should have cleaned up a lot more on the defensive end. And so the ranking should have been higher. And so I think that this is a team that struggles there overall. And then the next thing is their defense was extremely bad. So talking about just how they scored last season at the 75.9, that was 10th in the country, but their opponents, they gave up 73.6 points. And so they gave up just almost as much as they scored. And I just talked about the fact that with this team, they really didn't beat the teams they should have. And so when you get into close games, you absolutely have to have some mental toughness. And I think that that is an indication why Colorado really struggled. And so let's see if they can pick it up this season. And I think the next thing for them is that they were a bad free throw shooting team. And so when you look at the free throws out there, they only have one player that is averaging 76% from the free throw line. Everybody else, you have 50, you have one player that's at 64.6. And I'm sorry, they have one other player at 70%. And so for the most part, this is a team that does not shoot the basketball very well at the free throw line. And so, as good as those free throws, or excuse me, as good as the field goal percentages were and their ability to score close to the basket, if you foul them and you kind of do a hack on the whole team, it's going to be tough for them to really hurt you that way. And so I think teams were able to take advantage of them that way. And so these are some of the things that Colorado is going to have to definitely fix in a tough Pac-12. And so I think that for me, the overall thing with Colorado is that they have got to get mentally tough. It is not anything to do, I think, with the physicality or anything like that. And I think that, yes, you could look at their roster and say, okay, well, they don't have a whole bunch of specialists and things like that. Last season, they didn't have a whole bunch of specialists and they were able to score. And so I think that scoring is not going to be the issue, but you do have to be tough to defend a lot better, and you've got to be tough to close out a lot better than what they did a season ago. And so let's see. I do think that the Pac-12 is very much open, but I do think that Colorado is a team that should not be finishing under 500. So you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking with Colorado. Do you think that they are going to rebound from a season ago? And so keep in mind, they did finish third in the conference. I just think that they underperformed. That's just my personal opinion with Colorado. And so anyway, you guys let me know. And then look, as the great author and poet Jay-Z would say, what more can I say? See the game, be the game. I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.